Welcome back to the Fulfilled Female Entrepreneur Podcast. It's your host, Cassandra Rosa, and this mission of this podcast is to help you to create a fulfilling life and business. We have such a special guest today. This has been such a long time coming. I'm so honored and privileged and grateful to have Tara Antler on the podcast today, and I'm excited to introduce you to her. She's the co-founder of the Ascension Academy of Light with her husband, Gabriel, a global family-friendly center for personal and professional transformation, intuitive expansion, co-creation, mastery, and spiritual evolution. They guide and empower others to consciously create a thriving, abundant, and joyful life while fulfilling their soul's purpose. Tara started meditating when she was 14 and was naturally intuitive since childhood, which she now shares with her 3 children. Tara has personally worked with over 14,000 clients one-to-one since 2002 as an intuitive healer, soul coach, and spiritual mentor. She's also published author of the Healing Manual and Divine Wisdom Insight Cards, which I was playing with earlier today, funny enough. One of her most memorable clients was Louise Hay of Hay House. She's going to be talking about rising consciousness today. She has a rising consciousness show, and she has this beautiful meditative little space, helping you create your best summer ever, more fun. So she's going to be talking about that today. Tara, thank you for being here.
Oh, I'm so grateful for being here. When you were saying the very, very beginning, I had chills again from my face to my arms down to my toes. I'm so happy to be here. I know it has been a long time coming, and I'm so grateful to be able to connect and reconnect with you again. Feels so good.
So good, so natural, so fulfilling, so soul nourishing, So Tara and I met about 7 or 8 years ago now. We shared the stage. It was actually my first time public speaking. And we were connected, and she was one of my intuitive mentors right at the beginning. And I dove deep. I took all of her courses at one point. I was a part of her team. We were working together in so many beautiful ways. And when I reflect on who have been some of the people in my life that have had the biggest influence, you are one of them. So I'm super excited to talk with you more today about the rising consciousness of the planet. Like, this is such a pivotal time in history right now. And I get like full body head to toe chills when I say that. So I'm excited to see all the intuitive wisdom you have to share. But before we get into all of that, I love to ask all my guests what fulfillment means to you and what's the most fulfilling part of all the work that you do?
Oh my gosh, that's a great question. We were just talking about this today, actually. And I said to everybody, in order to be fulfilled, you need to feel. And so for me, fulfillment is being so present in each moment, whatever moment I'm in, like being here with you. And just before this, I was making play clay and being the judge of the play clay competition, and being so present in that moment and feeling all the feels, feeling what's going on in each moment, because it expands everything. It transcends time and space, and it lets me feel deeply connected to the moment, to the people, to what's happening, to myself, to my spirituality. And then, of course, I just naturally feel fulfilled by almost every moment, I would say, because I'm so present to it and feeling the depth of what's in that moment. Like, I had chills too when you were just talking again. It happened again, So we're both feeling that experience, which is just such a beautiful reflection of the divine channeling through us, coming in, being a part of this beautiful conversation.
Yeah, I love how you're talking about presence. I think that that's so key. And looking how my definition of fulfillment has changed, it used to be really connected to achievement. And I think a lot of society is conditioned that way. So I love that you're speaking to this presence, because I agree with you. I find that if you find fulfillment in the everyday moments, that will only help you by proxy to get the fulfillment from the big moments and the big bucket list items being checked off and milestones that we want to hit, which I love.
I
So
agree with you.
rising consciousness, let's talk about it. I want to first kick this off by just hearing from you what that even means to you.
Yeah, it's been a part of my awareness for so long because I feel like I came into this life experience wide open. There were no barriers, there were no filters. It was wide open. And so being able to see energy, being able to talk to fairies in the trees, being able to feel other people's experiences, being able to help people before I even studied to become a holistic healthcare practitioner and a healer, I just knew what to say to people. So I knew that there was something more going on. There was something expansive than the average, hey, how are you? Great. How are you? There was more to that interaction. There was a lot more happening in the nonverbal energetic spaces. And so the more I leaned into that, I realized that there were these different states of consciousness that people were in. Some people would get caught in what I would call maybe the earth mundane consciousness, where they get a job, they work their life, they're doing the day to day. At the end of the day, they're tired, they put their feet up, maybe watch some TV and reset, and we go again. And then there was a lower consciousness that I was aware of where people were really struggling. And there was this pain and getting stuck in trauma conversation and getting stuck in the doom and gloom and just all the woes and the heaviness. And it felt so dense. And I can understand why people don't necessarily want to do the deep dive work, because when you dip into there, sometimes it can feel really heavy. But then there was this higher consciousness. And this has been consistent from the time I came in. I was aware of this higher level consciousness, which is creator consciousness, God consciousness, divine consciousness, the all that connects everything, where there really is this potential for humanity and all of life to step into a conscious co-creation of heaven on earth, where we actually could live heaven on earth for real. And I believe we've done it many times before. I feel like we're at the precipice point right now where many of us are doing it already. Many are starting to wake up to that. And so what I've seen happen over the years, people are starting to really open up. I think back to when I first started Reiki when I was, 20, 21. That was a long time ago, like 2000. And it was 2000, year 2000 is when that world really opened up to me. And no one knew about what Reiki was. Nobody knew what a chakra was. Nobody knew really what meditation was. And so going from that point to now, 2024, I'm shocked by how fast humanity has lifted the veil and really starting to see what else is going on out there. So we're on a trajectory right now that's very fast. I believe consciousness is lifting faster and faster and faster and faster. Then you've got your technology and your information. Everything's available to us now, which is surprising to some people. However, information has always been available to us. The collective consciousness has held everything all the time. And so we've always been able to tap into it. We just didn't know how. And I think now with this information technology world, it's kind of showing us how easy it could actually be to tap into information. My experience now is, what if we started tapping into not just the information field, but really the collective consciousness field? Because once you start tapping in there, we know it's infinite. It's so expansive. So for me, rising consciousness is everything, because I feel like that's the trajectory that we're on. That's how we're going to get to the heaven on earth. That's how people are going to surpass those lower frequencies and lower densities and actually come up and into a higher experience. The things that we dream about,
Yeah, no, I love that. And there's just so much hope that comes from this conversation with everything that you're sharing, right? Because as humanity, we've gone through a lot the past 5 years, right? Like we've gone through all the waves, all the different push and pull energy. And I think in the process of rising consciousness, speaking for myself and my level of consciousness, you're in each level at some point in time. And I think it's all part of the process, having that polarity. When you're in your healing journey, sometimes you have to go to the depths and the heaviness, and to be able to process that and be able to rise to the higher level of consciousness where we want to be. And I remember in my journey, I was bypassing sometimes. I was like, I don't want to be in this thick anymore. I don't want to be in this. I just want to be at the highest, right? And there was times in the process of stepping into what I do that I was in, the matrix way of doing things with working the 9 to 5. And I think that in the part of people transitioning to honor their human experience of us being humans and rising, there can be times where you're having one foot in one world of, okay, I'm going to take care of the human, so all of the needs are met, while I'm stepping into the higher frequencies of humanity and what you wish to see. So what insights, what messages would you share to someone that maybe they're in their 9 to 5 and they're discovering their soul's purpose, and they're in the process of rising, but there still is that human part? Or what insights would you have for someone that maybe they're doing that deep healing work, And it's all for the greater good. It's all for the higher consciousness, but they're in the thick of it right now. What insights would you share to them?
Yeah, I think the most important thing to remember is that it's all spiritual. Like all of it is spiritual. So for us to classify something as, doing the 9 to 5 isn't spiritual, or doing, the deep dive work isn't spiritual, or getting caught in our stuff, or even listening to the ego, or maybe our shadow isn't spiritual. It's all spiritual. The whole thing is spiritual. It's a spiritual experience in physical form, not just even human form. We see physical all around us. It's a physical reality that we're in as these big, beautiful, infinite spiritual beings. So what we're essentially doing is remembering the infinite aspect of what we are, not who we are, because who we are changes from season to season. I wasn't a mom 8 years ago. Now I am, right? That changes. Who changes? The what stays consistent. We are always and forever energy, always and forever spiritual, always and forever light. So if we can remember that, then everything is spiritual. Even if I remember when I worked at the Ministry of Health, I brought that consciousness. This is the key, is bringing those higher levels of consciousness that we know deep within ourselves and in our core and in our being, bringing that into every moment. So even if you are feeling stuck in a situation, bring the higher energy into that and watch what transforms. If you're in a financial sticky situation, bring the spiritual into the financial and watch what happens. If you're in conflict with somebody, bring the spiritual into that conflict and watch what happens. Miraculous things start to go on. Your healing speeds up. The miracles start to appear, things get cleared up faster. And it's not necessarily bypassing, it's you being able to be present to say, okay, so I'm having an experience today. Parenting is one of the best teachers because you have to be present. You can't run from parenting. Maybe some people can, but I'm not going to run from parenting. It will slam you in the face over and over and over again until you're like, okay, I got it. I got it. I see it. You get present with it. The faster you can get present with it. And I remember when I worked at the Ministry of Health for 5 years, it was an intense, dark, challenging time. And I was doing that so that I could build my business as a holistic health practitioner. And so what I did to get through that time period was I thought, if I could bring these higher levels of consciousness in here, what would happen? And I didn't have any expectation. I just got curious. And what started to happen is people started to transform right before my eyes. Everybody wanted to come and talk to me, not about the day-to-day work. They wanted to talk to me about meditation and healing and all these beautiful conversations. People were just wanting to hang out at my desk, which I used to get in trouble for. I would come hang out at my desk because they just wanted to be in the field of it. So you could actually be a wave of higher consciousness or transformation for someone else just by you being that spiritual energy and saying, what if I just brought whatever you believe in, spirit, source, creator, God, the infinite, the divine, you bring that into the now, you bring that into your work, you bring that into your every moment, every day, every piece. Just watch what will happen, because that is what we are. We get lost in all the murkiness of the human experience. And if we can retain that memory of what we are, then what's happening in our world, you can actually transform a lot quite quickly. You can be in it and become the surfer, right? I think we're consciousness surfers, where we're up and down and we're all over the place. But it's learning to be able to remember that no matter what, even if I'm in a challenging situation, even if I'm whatever it is, that I am true to myself. I know who I am. I know my spiritual connection no matter what. Because some days, even as a parent, like you'll find yourself sometimes, I find myself sometimes, Gabriel and I both, with all that we know, we still find ourselves, things come out of the woodwork, things come up out of the shadow, and you're like, didn't know that was still there. Because so much is being pulled up from our consciousness. As we choose to grow, this stuff will come up. We want to expand. We want to live great lives. We want to have the best life ever. We want to have the best summer ever. We want to have the best day ever. Okay, great. In order for that to happen, you have to become the best version of yourself. So that means sometimes stuff is going to come up from the woodworks. It's going to come up out of ourselves for us to look at, heal, shift, transform, move through, not get stuck in. Don't ever get stuck in the weeds. This is, I think, really important for people to know, is that it's easy to get stuck in the weeds because it feels so heavy and it feels so dense. This is why having great mentors and tools and things like that to move through. Always think about moving through. If you're in a sticky situation, you're not in a sticky situation. It feels like you're in it. You're always moving. Water is always moving. Think of water. Water is always moving. Even in a pond, there's movement in the water. There's life in water that moves the water. You're like that. You are always moving. You are always evolving. You are always shifting. You are always growing. So if we can remember that, even a sticky situation where we feel stuck, I'm going to be like water today, right? If you can remember even that, I'm going to be like water today. Water is always moving. Even if there's a little ripple, water's always moving. So I'm not stuck in this. I'm moving through this. That's been a huge game changer for me, because then I don't ever feel confined by whatever's happening.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
So many beautiful things that you shared right there. And it's such an empowering way to think about it, because often in times when you're going through the thick of it, sometimes we can be victims in our own lives. Why is this happening to me? But when you realize something that you always used to say when I was in your courses, that everything happens for your highest and best good, this is to help you with your spiritual self, welcoming that in. And something that I've realized along my path too, is when you go through these difficult times, it's often connected to how you're meant to serve humanity. So you can have that deep understanding of the people that you're meant to serve. So I think it's beautiful to kind of pull in that whole concept of, yes, I'm a spiritual being. I'm bringing that light. I'm bringing that essence of who I truly am into this experience, so that you're able to move forward and rise again to where you want to be, instead of being stuck in the densities and the thickness. And it's interesting now, I've been feeling this, and a lot of people in my community have been sharing with me about the polarities that we're feeling. So since we're ascending to new heights, we're rising consciousness, we are, having a pivotal time in humanity, a lot of the stuff can come up. So what would you say for the people that are feeling this like polarity, this ping pong energy of, ooh, I'm expanding and growing. Ooh, I'm feeling a little bit, having a moment of pause to deal with all these things that are rising to the surface.
Yeah, it reminds me of childbirth. It's the best example, because childbirth is expansion and contraction. You think about what happens when we're growing, right? You're growing a being, you're growing yourself, you're growing a baby. It's all the same. You expand. Clearly, we expand, right? And then there's a moment where there's a contraction, and it pushes forth the new being. This is us in a nutshell. We are expanding, 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 expanding. And then all of a sudden we're like, oh, this is so painful. And it's like the contraction. But the thing is, and this is where humanity gets stuck and hooked. We've been taught that suffering is normal and we're supposed to suffer, and we get hooked in there. We get stuck in there. If you look at childbirthing, and I birthed twins naturally, and I birthed Arya naturally. Okay. I know the process now, fully embodied. The contractions aren't there the entire time. You're breathing. You feel what's happening. You feel the change that's going on. You're present to it. And then all of a sudden there's a contraction. It's like, and it lasts for maybe a minute. And then there's a reprieve. And then there's another contraction, and it comes and it gets more intense and more intense and more intense as you're getting right to that precipice point of birthing something yourself, right? And all of a sudden, when it gets more and more intense, it gets more intense. But then it softens again, and it gets intense, and then it softens again. And then all of a sudden there's that final moment, and it is intense. It's the burning ring of fire for real. And you push yourself through, you move yourself through, you birth yourself through in that fire of transformation, and out comes a new being. And there's complete release after, complete joy, complete release after. Now, I know that there's other situations when people have complicated pregnancies and deliveries. I get that. That's a different situation. But in the natural flow of what the body's meant to do, in the natural evolution of how we birth ourselves and how we birth babies, it's not as traumatic and intense, and it's definitely not suffering. I think that's something we've picked up and we've learned, and we wear it as a badge of honor. Oh, I've done my time in the suffering department, and you're like, okay, we all have, right? Like we've all done that. Now, can we move on and have a different conversation? Because people do wear it as a badge. That's the victimhood stuff that gets people stuck. So I think it's really important for people to know that right now there is a time of expansion, contraction. There is a time of polarity. We are expanding to heights that we have not ever seen in this earth experience ever. So this is something new for all of us. So it's exciting, it's brilliant, it's beautiful. It's like, oh, I'm going to become, but I know, just know it's going to be awesome. Right.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden we're pulled back to this experience. We're like, oh, this sucks. Why is this so uncomfortable? That's the contraction. It doesn't last long. But what happens is if we're not giving ourselves the space to just feel it for a moment, that contraction can feel like forever.
Mhm.
But the moment you get present to it and you're like, okay, I'm going through a contraction of life, contraction within self. It feels uncomfortable. It feels icky. It feels sticky. It's odd. It feels weird. It's unusual. I don't get it. I don't even know why this is happening. Just be with it for a moment. Get present to it. Breathe. Feel it. Breathe. Feel it. Breathe. And as you do that, you get so present to what that experience is that you can actually transform the pain piece. And then you can feel the expansion then again. And that contraction expansion, it could actually dissipate in like a minute for real. But humanity likes to we like to draw things out a little bit because we love our dramas, right? We just love to, we're just going to sit in it because maybe that's what we've been taught. Maybe that's what we think we need to do. Maybe it's like we think, maybe I haven't figured it all out yet. Maybe there's some more stuff in here. Like maybe I'll just stay right here because maybe there's something else for me to learn. This is my new thing right now over the last like couple months, and it's been working like a charm. What's for me, and I'm talking to creator all the time. I'm like, what's for me? Bring it to me. What's for me? Bring it to me. Because I don't want to play in anything else that's not for my soul. And I think we're inundated right now by other consciousness impacting other consciousness. And then we take it on as our own and we think, oh, well, but that's me, or that's my identity, or that's what I'm supposed to do, or that's what I'm supposed to fit into. You and I were talking the other day about business even, right? Like all these different boxes and ways that we're supposed to strategize and do the things. But what if it's not that way for you? What if it's about you discovering your way? Yes, there are great strategies that work, but try it on, feel it for a moment, but then really know yourself. Is this me? Is this for me? Is this not for me? And that's why I've been using that statement, because it's clearing out anything that is not in the highest and best good. It's only bringing to me what is. So then I trust deeply that even if there's a moment that feels really intense, I trust that, just like I said, if I want to have the best life ever, I have to become the best version of myself ever. So if a crap situation comes, intense, triggering, heavy, dense, whatever it is, I trust fully that situation really is for my expansion. And the contrast will move us to grow.
Yeah.
I've always said the shadow pushes us to grow. That's its job. We're not meant to get stuck in the shadow. We're not meant to over-identify with the shadow, which I think a lot of humanity is doing that right now. Over-identify with the shadow. Let's go make friends with the shadow and like, let's just carry it around all day. That's a lot of work and that's really heavy.
Yep.
Try carrying your entire past of crazy stuff all day, every day. Try it. You will be exhausted within about an hour. We're not meant to carry around the shadow because that's not what we are. We are particles of light. We are energy. We are infinite. We are creation bubbles, creating everything all the time. So what are we doing with that life force? What are we doing with that energy? And so I found that over the, well, I'm 46 now. Over the 46 years in this earth body experience, I have found the easiest way through is to, yes, notice the shadow. Be grateful that it's there to help you grow. Thank you for helping me grow. I'm going to take my growth. I'm going to be present to it. And then I'm going to sail through because I got life to live. I got beautiful things to happen. And again, being a parent teaches you so many things, because when you have kids too, when you have other people that look to you, that need you, you do not have time. Gabriel and I, we do not have time to sit in the thick of all that. We got to quickly move, which is such a beautiful blessing because we can't get stuck in our stuff anymore. We just can't. We don't have the luxury of getting stuck in our stuff anymore because 3 little ones look to us and go, okay, can I have this? Can we do this? Can you do this? Can you do this? I need this. Can you wipe my bum? I need water. You're like, okay, keep moving. Let's go. Right.
Yeah.
And I'm still aware of when triggers come. I just don't allow them to take over. I hope that makes sense.
Lots of sense. I love that example about birthing. And I think that whether you're birthing a baby, whether you're birthing a creative project or a new offering or a social media post, it's the same thing. And whenever you're having big creations coming forth, like children, like big projects, that does come up, that same experience. I haven't had kids yet, but I think you can confirm or deny if those experiences are the same. When you're doing quantum leaps, when you're doing something you've never done before, that big expansion and contraction can come. I can think of new offerings that I've never done before. And when I've stood forth in them, all the excitement and all of that, my ego's coming in, comfort zone, sirens are going off, take a seat, come and hang out here in the comfort. And I think that, like you were saying, there was so much to unpack about what you just said, but like, we are conditioned to be uncomfortable and be in this scarcity and be in this stuckness. And so that can be comfortable for people because we're so used to it. We're so conditioned that way. And something interesting when you're talking about like the birthing example, a breath example came up. So like when we're excited and we're filling ourselves up with the light, the excitement, the fulfillment, there's that moment before the exhale comes. But when we breathe, we're not sitting there holding for the shift for so long, right? So it's giving ourselves permission when we're moving through things, the shift, right? Shifting our states. So not staying in it. Otherwise, we're going to be holding our breath up at the top for so long before the exhale comes. So when you're going through the shadow, when you're going through parts of yourself that you're meant to heal, give yourself permission to pause and to go through it, but not staying paused until the exhale comes. That was a big
100%. Because if you tried to do that while birthing a baby, you'd pass out. There's a reason why they have like breath work techniques to do when you're birthing a baby. And it is a quantum leap. Every idea, every new version of yourself, every next piece that you want to, it is a quantum leap in yourself. Birthing a baby is a quantum leap. The rebirthing process is a quantum leap. So yeah, there's a lot that comes with that. And it's so beautiful. And if we could just remember that and be like, oh yeah, this is like birthing something. I'm birthing myself, or I'm birthing a project and an idea, or whatever it is. It's okay. I'm going to be with it. I'm going to breathe. I'm going to grow. And pretty soon you're through to the other side, because all the same fears come up. When you're birthing a baby, fear comes up. What if I can't do this? What if the baby gets stuck? What if I stop contractions? All the fears come up. I don't want to, especially after having one baby and you know what's coming. Now you know there's a burning ring of fire. You're like, oh my God, I do not want to put myself through that again. No way. And you can almost feel yourself self-sabotaging, pulling yourself back because we don't want to go through the pain.
right.
And I think we do this all the time where we're like we're bracing, right? So I think we could actually shorten the polarity if we stop bracing, if we actually just felt for a moment, be like, okay. And I remember doing this, especially with the twins. I was like, okay, Tara, you're afraid right now to experience that pain. I get it. You're supported. You're here. We're going to do this. Either way, these babies have got to come out. And then I went straight to the divine. I was like, okay, you have to help me now. Like this, let's go, let's do this. And sometimes we show up with peace and we do it. Sometimes we show up with fire and intensity and we're like, oh, like I'm going to go for it. Right? Other times it's love that pulls us through. Other times it's joy. There's so many different things that can move us through something. Just know that with that spiritual guidance and having that as a part of your everyday consciousness, it's so much easier than in the moments when it's hard. You don't have to try to find, oh, where's that spiritual consciousness thing there? You just have it because you're living it. You're like, okay, come on now. Now it's go time. Like we need to move,
Yes. And I think that this is important from the lens of entrepreneurship, because I don't know if you realize this lately, but there's a lot of people that are either starting their business or people that have been in business for a minute and then they're like out of the game. I've seen so many pages like just disappeared out of thin air. And it's interesting because I think it's an important reminder of talking about rising consciousness in this moment for humanity. That polarizing stuff is going to come up. That stuff is going to come up to clear, because an image that I've been seeing lately is when you're going somewhere you've never gone before and you're going on this beautiful journey and you have your backpack with all the snacks, the water, all these things. If you keep putting bricks in there that you're not taking out, it's going to be hard. So it's giving yourself permission to be able to let go of those things and keep moving forward. And how do you let go of those things? By rising your consciousness, by stepping into your spiritual self, by allowing your intuition to guide you in the path and that you're destined to be. So I really wanted to touch on that too.
I agree with you. And I've been seeing that too. And I think that all of life can be easy and hard.
Mhm.
It's our consciousness and our perspective about it. There's a lot of hard things that we've done. And yet when I look back at them, I'm like, great, I'm so happy I did that. Like it seemed hard in the moment, but afterwards, you're so grateful. I'm so grateful that I've gone through some of the things that I have, because now when the hard times come, I'm like, okay, like I almost laugh at it now because I'm like, here we go again. I know that we're birthing something new. Something great is going to be on the other side. And
Yeah.
that's all a part of us tending to our regular day-to-day consciousness. But I'm seeing that too. And I think it's because there's a lot that's happening in the world. There's a lot of changes. There's a lot of fear. There's a lot of uncertainty. And when the hard comes, if we are not tending to our mind, our energy, our emotions, and our spirit, it's going to feel hard because we're literally matching physical to physical, material to material. And then it feels hard. Because then you're like, now I physically have to roll this big boulder up a hill where I don't even know where I'm going anymore. That's hard, right?
Mhm.
So I think that's why a lot of people are folding. I think there's also a lot that are being rebirthed. And what I would say as a business owner, because your business will 100% reflect you,
Yes.
always. So if you don't have babies, start a business because it will show you all of you, right? Like 100%, it's the same thing. Your business is going to reflect what you're holding and what you believe and what you need to move through and what you need to heal and what you need to shift. And it's not that you're not supposed to have a business necessarily. It just means that when those tough times come, there's growth for you. That's what that means. And if you could take your growth, you're good. And then all of a sudden, everything else comes up. You feel better. Your business feels better. Things
Yes.
start to work. But I think that's the hard part that people get stuck in, is that all of a sudden it feels hard
Mhm.
because it becomes such a mirror, right? It's like kids, they're such a mirror. Your business is a mirror and it's going to show you what you need to transcend and move through.
It becomes so personal, right? Because it's so intertwined with our business and our brands. So, why do you think now is the time that consciousness is rising more than ever before?
Ooh, this is a big question. This big, big, big question. So there's a lot of speculation, but I really believe, just from spiritual truth that drops down for me all the time, is I remember creators saying that we were going to complete a really long cycle. And I said, what do you mean by long? Like in my mind, I'm thinking like thousands of years. They're like, no. And they don't know exactly. This is why there's difference around, like, is it 24,000, 25,000, 26,000? Because I think when you're counting that long, it doesn't matter. It's just a huge chunk of time. So this is why everybody averages about 25,000 years. There's a cycle that happens, and it's kind of like a rotational cycle that happens. And we're coming out of now what's called the dark age. And that's where we fell. We all fell. Humanity fell, our consciousness fell, not because somebody did that to us, but because collectively on a spiritual level, we all chose it. We said, let's go to the pits of hell and have the most dramatic, intense situations so that we can see what that feels like and then feel what ascension feels like. Wouldn't that be fun? And we're like, yeah, let's go do that. And then we get it, we're like, what are we doing? And so now we've ended that cycle. So now that we've completed that, we're actually in a light age. It doesn't always feel so light right now, because if you have a wheel turning this way for a long time, it takes something to slow it down, stop it, and reverse it. So I think we're at the stopping point right now. I think it's slowly starting to come up. I felt it about 6 months ago, where all of a sudden everything stopped. I'm like, what just happened? It felt nothing,
Still,
quiet,
still.
still,
Yes.
so still. And I kept asking Craig, I'm like, what is going on right now? This is so strange. Hardly any dialogue going on with the divine. Even though I could feel it, it wasn't the same. And they said, we hit the stop point.
Mm.
And now we have to kickstart the engine. It's like running the dial the other way. So it's like pulling a pendulum, right? If the pendulum's been, doing its thing, we just stopped it and reset it. Now it has to kickstart, it has to go again. So now we're in picking up momentum. So I think a lot of people are actually going to start feeling more lighter, brighter, coming up. There's more clarity, there's more connection happening. I think when it gets quiet, we all get quiet. Like it's like connections aren't being made the same way. There's a serious still point.
Yes.
But we know that from still point, from quantum physics, still point is where everything gets created from. So I think when we hit that still point, there's a lot of inner work that we all did. There's a lot of inner visioning that we all did, where we held the space for what would new planet, new earth, new experience, new life look like. And that's what kick-started the engine. So now we're starting to go in the correct, I would say, direction, the light direction. It's just, it's slow to get going because we're just coming out of the gates. And it'll pick up speed. And I think in a couple of years from now, we'll feel like the woo, like we'll feel it more than the other stuff.
Yeah.
And so that's what's happening right now. It's big. This is huge.
Yeah. And come the time of this recording, this week is the summer solstice coming up. So I was feeling like, oh, there's going to be a big lightheartedness that comes with it, because summertime up in the northern hemispheres, there's so much more fun. There's so much more excitement, that buzzing energy, that connection, spending time with family, with friends. So I'm interested to see how things will shift in the second half of the year. Because the first half of the year, even for me personally, it was so like heavy. So I'm starting to feel the lightness and my own personal momentum come up. And it's just interesting. I just want to help people at this moment in time. It's interesting. I've been thinking about the next few months, the next 6 months, like what is my mission in the now, in this season? And I'm just ready to help ignite people to that possibility, to that, that impact, that ripple effect, and start to see that for themselves, even through this integration kind of time that's been happening. I know I've had it for the past couple of years and a lot of people, and this just like, I learned a lot. We went through a lot. Like, let's unpack it. Like, let's lighten up a little bit. So I'm
And
really
take a deep breath for a moment, because we did go through a lot, and be like, that was a doozy.
flash.
Yeah, for real. And I agree with you. I think that we're all reattuning. And I think as we're reattuning, we're really starting to dial into not just what we think is our mission, or what maybe society has placed on, or maybe we absorbed from what we think, even if we felt connected to it. I really feel like so many layers have been pulled back that people are really now attuning to what is their true, like, really, what did you come here for? What are you here to activate? And that might change. Like right now, it might be this season and cycle, and then it's the next piece. And then that's okay too. Because I'm really lit up right now too about, I just want everybody, I keep dreaming of a world where people are financially free, where they're not confined by money, but that is not their limiter anymore, that people are so financially abundant and free that if they say, I want to create this life, so let's do it already, I really would love people to get to that space, and to experience that, because there's such an ease about that.
Yeah, no, I love that. It's just so freeing, just even hearing you talk about that. And what I've realized lately is I talked about in my content lately about, like, I don't think we all have one purpose of being here. I feel like we have a gazillion purposes. We have a purpose for people in our life, for the lessons that we learned, the hard times, the good times, all of it, right? So it's interesting. I've been talking a lot now about what's the purpose and the mission for the now, because we change all the time. When I look at like 10 years ago and where it was now, I thought it'd been a whole different path, whole different path. Even the beginning when we met, I think both of us, even we thought we were going in a whole different direction. And I think just being in that place of present, kind of bringing this full circle, when you're talking about fulfillment in the present, the more that you anchor in to that, the more that your consciousness can rise. Because you're truly being you, you're feeling it head to toe. It's contagious. Everyone's around you and like, yeah, I want to be a part of that. I want to rise too. So if someone's listening and they're like, oh, Tara, I'm feeling this, but I want to do this now. I want to get started. That momentum of the wheel turning. I want to get my wheel turning. What are some tangible ways that people can rise their consciousness right now?
Yeah, I would say you have to start with a personal practice. Utmost importance. It could be spiritual practice, personal practice, something that you dedicate to every day. I have to say that multiple times, because people fall off and then they wonder why all of a sudden something's not working. You're like, well, what changed? And all of a sudden you backtrack and you go, oh, well, I stopped doing that. I stopped singing. I stopped meditating. I stopped praying. I stopped walking. I stopped connecting with nature. Whatever your jam is, your practice could be many different things. You have to have a spiritual practice of some sort, personal practice, spiritual practice every day, no matter what, because it builds that momentum. And at first it just feels really good. It feels so good to connect, but then all of a sudden it picks up internal spiritual energetic momentum, and it will start to create waves for you, beautiful waves. You could pause for a day and it'll still keep going. But if you stop for more than 1 or 2 days, you start to feel the shift already, we have to be spiritually connected right now. So I would say like that's of utmost importance, whatever that is, through meditation, dance, breath work, energy work, crystals, nature, gardening. There's so many.
Yeah.
I remember sitting with Louise Hay and I asked her, I was so curious. I said, out of all the things that you've done in your life, and she had done some really exceptional things. I said, what was your favorite experience? She sat there, she said, no, nobody's ever really asked me that before. And I thought it was going to be something wildly, out there. And she said, gardening. I'm like,
Wow.
gardening. I said, why gardening? And she said she just felt so connected to creator and so at ease. And she didn't have children. So she loved being able to care for flowers and tend to them and let them grow and watch them blossom and the beauty that came from them. And she treated them like they were her children. And that's how she kind of saw the world. So it was such a cool analogy to see how flowering, gardening equated to her being like grandmother, mother to so many in the world. And so your spiritual personal practice could be anything. Stay with it though, be consistent with it. That's like number one. Then I would say from there, we got to start having some more fun. I've been saying this for months and months. We have to start having some more fun. I think the place of consciousness that we've been in, especially for the last 5 years, it's been really intense. There has been so much, and I won't go into all the details, but there has been so much that humanity has been experiencing and had experienced. I feel like we need to be light again. We need to take pressure off. We need to start having some fun. We need to get reconnected to joy. So again, whatever brings you joy, whatever lights you up, go play. Maybe it's a conscious choice. I had to teach myself how to play because I was such a serious kid, because I just tapped into all sorts of things and I didn't know what to do with it. So I had to actually teach myself how to play. Sometimes we have to do that. Go play, go have fun, not with this is the result. This is why I'm doing this. We have so much of that in the world. Go play because you can. Go create because you can. Enjoy because you can. And then I would say the last thing for me, consciousness. I mean, I do meditate every day. That's been with me since I was 14. And meditation could be 5 minutes. It could be 20. It could be with the kids. It could be walking. But having that communion with the divine is so important. And that's what my meditation practice is really about. It's me connecting with me. It's me remembering me. It's me remembering the connection to the divine. Even as I'm talking, I can hear the wind blowing in the trees. It's being connected, feeling the interconnectedness of everything. Because when you do, you expand. You step out of the finite, my physical earthly body and form, which is great. It's very expansive and it's beautiful. And yet we are so much more. And when we feel that expansion, automatically your consciousness is going to go up. So it's not that hard.
I love that. I love all these tips. And I want to say something I learned from you and being in the meditation certification, that meditation doesn't have to be sitting on a rock somewhere with your eyes closed, with hand, mudras and doing all these things. It's just doing things that make you feel connected. Coloring, or going on a meditative walk, just breathing. So if you are someone that in the beginning of the meditation journey, like I was, that was a little bit kind of resistant to it, that is something that I think is important to bring forth. So
I think for people too, just quickly, is that with meditation, I still hear this to this day. People will say, I was trying a meditation practice and I couldn't quiet my mind. Everything out there says quiet your mind. Newsflash, your brain mind was built to run. It's always running. When you sleep, your brain is running. It's monitoring your body, everything that's going on in your physiology. It's monitoring your energy field. You're traveling when you sleep. There's so much going on within your mind. So to think that we could sit in meditation and create complete stillness of thought, I've only had that happen once. So I don't know what the math is from 14 to 46. Once in that time period. And it was only for a minute. And then I was like, oh, I had a thought. And I was like, oh, I had a thought. And, I was like, I had a thought. I had no thought. I had a thought. And I was like, that's it. Like a 1 minute I got. So what I've learned to do, and this is so important for people to know, give your mind something to focus on. Guided visualization, a breath, a mantra, the sound of a bird. Focus on something. Give your mind something to focus on. Focus the mind there. While that's happening, you will enter into a very calm and peaceful state. But if you're fighting your mind and fighting yourself the entire time, it's going to be the worst meditative experience ever. So just let go of the piece of trying to have no thought, and you can quiet it a bit, but there's never really very often a point where you have no thought. Okay. Guided visualization, give it something to focus on, take the pressure off.
Love that. Thank you for that bonus tip.
Yeah.
And I think it's a great segue into talking about what you guys have going on in your meditation space. Do you want to speak to that?
Yeah, thank you so much. So we created the Ascension Meditation Space because so many people were coming to us for meditation, to help them become better meditators personally and professionally, to guide meditations, lead them, our certification. And so I said to Gabriel, I really feel like it's time. We are wanting to build a retreat center, a physical retreat center here in Northern Ontario. I said, I don't want to wait for that when that time comes. I want to build something now. And so Spirit was like, build it online. I was like, great idea. Let's do that. So we built this virtual meditation space where there's different rooms so people can go in. So there's the main meditation room. There's the mandala room. So it's very much like walking in a labyrinth garden. There's the reflective room. There's the creative musing room where we can just go dream. There's the healing and restoration room. So there's different rooms, and we laid it out in a way where it feels like you're walking through the room. And so in each room, there's meditations, there's playlists, because I love music. There's playlists, there are reflective questions, there's contemplative things. And we said, we just want to keep it so simple for people to come and play and be a part of that. So I'll give you the link. You can share it with people because there's a 2-week free trial that they can go and have and just play in the rooms. It's such a beautiful space. And it's just a really great place to be, because if we want to raise our consciousness, but also create a really exceptional experience, we do have to dial in what is happening here in our mind and in our energy body and our emotions. And so those meditations really help to do that for people.
Well, I'm going to share that in the link. I'm going to go and check it
Thank
out as
you.
well and be part of it. And for people that are wanting to hear more about your perspective of the rising consciousness, you want to talk about your show?
Yeah, so we're everywhere. We're on Spotify, iTunes, all the places where you can catch podcasts. My favorite place is iTunes, but I know other people go other places, but it's all talking about rising consciousness. We had Cassandra on the show the other day. We love bringing people on to have different conversations about all sorts of things, because you can bring consciousness into everything. So sometimes we talk about parenting, sometimes it's about health and healing, sometimes it's about business, sometimes it's about just leading yourself in your life. So no topic gets untouched. We talk about everything. It's very raw, real, fun. We always give tips and tools. Gabriel sometimes is with me, sometimes they're solo. And it's just a really beautiful place to hang out because there's so much value that we give. And so now we're also bringing that into our YouTube. So you're going to see like a cross pollination happening in both of those places.
Amazing. We're going to leave links so you can check that out. Go check out our episode. Tara, thank you for being here. If there's any other place that they want to learn about you and all the beautiful ways that you serve, what's the best place for them to check out?
I would say come and follow me on Facebook. Actually, that's where I'm most active. If you come and find me on Facebook, so just facebook.com and then tara.antler, that's probably the place to come and find out what we've got going on, because every season and cycle, there's something different and new coming. And that's probably the best place to keep an eye on where we are, what's going on. And I go live every week, and there's so much playful goodness in there.
Yes, yes. We're going to leave the link so you can check that out. I love you, Tara. Thank you for being
I love you.
I could talk to you all day long. I just want to thank you from the bottom of my heart for the influence that you've had on my life and sharing all your beautiful wisdom with everybody today. So thank you from the bottom of my heart. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Cassandra. I love you too. And thank you for having me. I'm sending you so much love.
Thanks for watching the video. If you enjoyed it, please give it a big thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. Hit the notification bell so you'll be notified every time I'll upload a new video on Thursday. See you in the next one. Bye.